What is the role of the wrist on the serve? And how do pros achieve the critical wrist positions that you see them do to allow themselves to generate massive racket head speed into the shot while all remaining injury-free? The wrist action on the serve is one of the most controversial topics covered in tennis, and for good reason too. It can either unlock a kingdom of whip-like power for you, or if you fall victim to some of the many myths of the serve in the wrist action, you could easily end up injuring your wrist. So here are 3 simple steps that you can execute today on the court to actually start unlocking that fluid whip-like action on the serve with the wrist action on the serve. Let's go. To start off, we've got the prep. There's more variation in the wrist in your backswing than almost any other part of the serve. Some players have their wrist flexed, others have it supinated, pronated, and anywhere in between. But luckily for us, a lot of this is a matter of personal preference that we don't really need to master the most important serve wrist actions for a powerful and consistent serve. But as players move into the trophy position, that's where we start to see players all reaching the key critical positions with their hitting arm and their wrist, which we'll get into. Top servers will have their wrist neutral along this flexion and extension plane, along with slight ulnar deviation so that their racket tip is pointing up and slightly forward. And again, ulnar deviation is that slight flexion to the pinky side. Now, what I see a lot of players do instead of this motion is a lot of this extension motion, which ends up causing the very common waiter's tray position. The problem with the waiter's tray serve is that with your racket already dropped behind you, there's not really a lot of space for your hitting arm and racket to flip back into the racket drop. And what happens in this case? Well, if your racket drops early, it's impossible to start getting that dynamic flip where the racket swings in and out of the racket drop quickly and smoothly, which for you means way less power and a weak kick serve. If you look at top pro serves, you'll see that there's a straight line within their forearm and racket from the back view. And from here, with a slight internal rotation of the shoulder, your racket tip should be pointed upward and slightly forward. So again, whatever your wrist does in the backswing, it could do whatever crazy maneuvers that you want to. Whatever it is, just get your wrist in that neutral position, slightly ulnar deviated to the pinky side, and then you're good to go. Now, one of the easiest drills that I've seen that really helps to get this position down is what I like to call the racket bounce drill. Here's how it goes. To start off, just get into your trophy position with the key checkpoints in your hitting arm position. It's going to be pulled back to be in line with your body, bent about 90 degrees and raised about 90 degrees from your torso. And from here, all you're going to do is slightly relax and bounce your racket head just like so. Now, again, if you flip your racket back and extend this wrist prematurely, you're going to feel the weight of this racket already behind you like so. So instead, get it right into this neutral position and then bounce it. It should feel very nice and relaxed. So just remember, create a straight line from your racket all the way to the tip of your racket to make sure you're not bending too far this way or too far this way, and you're good to go. From here, just add in the bounce, toss, and swing. And bouncing your racket here is going to give you the added benefit of keeping your wrist relaxed before your swing, which is going to help with step number 2, the racket drop. If you've positioned your wrist correctly by the end of your trophy pose, most of what should happen from here on out should be natural and automatic. As high-level servers accelerate, they're going to drive their legs explosively through the ground and propel their hips to rotate forward. And if you do this properly, the inertia of the racket head and the hand is going to actually help to propel your racket down and back because of its desire to stay in its place. This racket flip force is what will create the proper wrist action in our racket drop. In all top servers, you'll see the wrist moves into full extension and radial deviation, which is, again, this flexion toward the thumb side. Along with this, the forearm is going to go from this pronated position to a supinated position as well. And if you combine these motions, you'll notice instantly that you're going to achieve this iconic racket drop position that you see almost every player getting into. Now, once again, the key to achieving that fluid, natural racket drop action is to keep your wrist and your hitting arm naturally relaxed by doing this bouncing drill and start to practice feeling that fluid acceleration and whip. So once again, the key to achieving this natural racket flip motion is to push heavy from the ground, rotating the hips and torso forward, and for that to cause this natural racket flip motion as long as your hitting arm and your wrist is relaxed. After the racket loops through your racket drop, it starts getting into the critical upward swing phase. According to Dr. Brian Gordon's study, published over at tennisplayer.net, link in the description below, the first wrist action that happens here is the wrist ulnar deviation, which again is the pinky flexion. Now, if you perform this correctly, it's gonna feel like your hitting arm is just one big whip, and your hitting arm is gonna release up with this elbow extension motion. Again, this is a natural result of your upward force that you create from your hitting shoulder and elbow driving up during your acceleration. And as your hitting arm continues to drive up through the elbow extension, your wrist is actually just a natural extension of that same catapulting effect. As long as your hitting arm is relaxed, this will cause your wrist to move from this radial deviation position to ulnar deviation. Now, as we move into contact, players will have different degrees of this ulnar and radial deviation depending on what type of serve they're trying to hit. For example, on kick serves, players are going to make contact lower with the racket tip angled more to the side. And with their wrist neutral, they're going to release up through contact. Now, on the flat and slice serve, however, while you still are going to release up, you'll notice that the critical point at contact, the racket tip is actually going to be pointed higher. And that basically means that you've done this ulnar deviation motion a little bit earlier before contact. Now, if you want us to make a video dedicated to the kick serve wrist action, definitely let us know in the comments below. And if this video hits 3,000 likes, we'll work on that right away. One of the biggest keys to this video that we made here is that it's not just your forearm pronating that creates all the power. Top pros are actually going to use this unitary rotation of both their shoulder and their forearm in order to drive massive racketed speed into the shot. And this internal rotation is going to help with the last wrist action, the forward wrist flexion. Now, this is going to get a little bit complicated, so bear with me here, because if you get this motion down, you'll finally start to feel that crack of the relaxed, effortless whip action that you're going to feel on the serve. Now, fundamentally, the racket and the hand is going to have momentum going forward because of the motion you've done earlier of driving the hitting arm and the elbow up. And as you get into this fully supinated on-edge position, you'll notice that if I don't do anything here, the natural forward momentum of the racket head is going to basically make me chop the ball with the edge of the racket. But if I actually start to rotate the hand and the racket into the net, you'll actually notice that this same forward momentum is going to cause slight wrist flexion. And this right here unlocks tremendous amount of relaxation and natural power on your serve. It's the difference between feeling this tight, clunky motion of trying to push the ball versus feeling that like you're transferring all of the momentum and energy that you've generated prior to the serve to this critical moment at contact. So what does this mean for you? Well, all it comes down to is your ability to actually time this internal rotation. And if you do it right, this natural release is going to cause your racket head to drive massively forward and upward, which is going to create that natural spin and power on your serve. So your legs, hips, and trunk are going to create the power, but through the proper hitting arm coordination, you'll start to feel this massive racketed speed and passive forward and upward wrist release for power. Now, after contact, one of the most harmful myths that I see is to actively move your wrist into this forward flexion motion to try and add power to your serve. The problem here is that the extensor muscles in your forearm are just simply way too weak. When all that force is applied to forward wrist flexion, that is a recipe for disastrous injury. If you look at top servers instead, their wrist is only flexing forward well into their follow-through position. And this is most likely a result of preference because some players just like that feeling of completely relaxing the wrist until it moves into flexion. But for some players, it might just be a result of doing this ulnar deviation a little bit earlier. As some players make contact higher or more toward their right, their wrist moves into full ulnar deviation a little bit faster. So the wrist is going to end up curling forward to continue the momentum of the racket head until players can start to decelerate with the larger muscles of their body, like their shoulder, their lats, and their chest. Now, the wrist is just one element of many in the entire complexity of the serve motion that's going to take your game to the next level. So to help you out, we've made a full video series here on YouTube that you can check out right away by clicking the first link in the description below. And thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys so much. All the comments and kind words that we get in the comments section. It is just incredibly unbelievable and inspiring. And I just hope to make so many more helpful videos to come. Until next time, athletes, go out and train hard. I'll see you in the next video.